What I am very excited to share with you today, and especially in this session, now that I have heard these two colleagues, is the finding of my doctoral research that I did at Columbia University, where I studied business leaders championing sustainability initiatives. And why I am sharing it with you today is because that study had some consequences. I developed a program that I'm teaching now, and I want to get some more input, and I'm forming an international task force for people that want to think on that. And so I'm inviting whoever is passionate about this topic, and I will do a little bit to get you more inspired. And how will we work? We will have a participatory approach, so I will engage you. We will also do a technique, it's called peer group coaching. So you learn something, you take up something away. And then with whatever input I collect, if you also write down your emails, I will collate it all and send it back to you. And so what? What is the takeaway out of this session? Well, on one hand, yes, for me it is very important to share a little bit of the findings of the study, what happened, what I'm doing today. And I was thinking that if someone is interested, we can then meet either later today or tomorrow, find a space, and I can get more into detail on the course, the program that I'm doing, and maybe think of this task force. So let me give you a little bit of a background. I am a legacy coach, and no one knows what that is because I invented that word. It means, which is wonderful. So what's that? I work with people that want to make a difference. And so a few years ago, I started to wonder why there were so many retired business people who started to do philanthropy. And I said, what about when they are working? Are they not thinking that the impact of their decisions is maybe more important than working on philanthropy? And then I started to find a few that actually were doing things that were not philanthropic, but they were very thinking in a different way. And then I said, well, would it be interesting to find out those people that are doing it without, no one asked them to do it. It's not part of their role. They are not in charge of corporate, of CSR. So wouldn't it be good to understand what got them ready? What did they know or think? Or is this something that we can maybe intentionally develop in the new generation of leaders? If it is something that was a drama where we cannot have traumas in creating traumas in people's life, but maybe there are things that we can intentionally develop. So that's how I started. So now I need to find what I put here. Let me close this. What I did is a qualitative exploratory study, because obviously there is a lot of, I found a lot of studies, but more about initiatives, not so much about the people that were taking these initiatives. And I thought that was interesting because I wanted to understand these people. Today I was listening and said, yes, corporations do this, but corporations are people. There's always one person that has an idea and talks to someone and let's do that, and tries to find some critical supporters that help that person take an initiative. Change never happens everybody at the same time. So I wanted to know what happens in these individuals. Maybe we can clone them, not clone them, but do something in the way we are communicating, or what we are teaching, or how we are teaching. I will do a full screen if I find it here. Is it? It's too dark? Okay. So I wanted to know what knowledge, competencies, values, what prepared them, and maybe extract from there some ideas how we could develop the next generation of leaders. Why doesn't it move? Oops, sorry. So I did a group of 16 exemplary leaders. I worked with leaders in the U.S. from different size organizations, large organizations, smaller organizations. It was the age range was between 37 and 70-something. There were, the media was in 53, and that was not surprising because I wanted to have leaders at director level or CEO level. So at that age, only in a few occasions you are very young. And not many female. Happy Women's Day. So some of the findings that were very interesting, how they talked about the business education that was an obstacle for them. Now we have to pay attention that they were talking about different times when they received their education. They were not graduated of the last 5 years. Most of them had an education 10 years or 20 years or some 7 years ago. But in general terms, there was a consensus that education was fragmented, it was disconnected, the subjects were not, ethics, for example, was a subject in some cases, but was not embedded into the whole, into the different topics. Unaware of systemic connections, parochial, US-centered, well, no surprise. Then I asked what information, I was trying to see what is it that they knew. And it was very interesting that information became important for them, but it was passionate information. It was not just cerebral. It was not a cognitive. It was something that hit them in the stomach. For example, there was this person, he was the founder of a large company, and at some point they were creating a commission to study their ecological impact and how responsible they were. And he had to give a speech for this new task force to encourage them. And he said, well, we are doing everything by the law. We are not doing anything wrong. Aren't we meeting with the regulations? And so the person said, yes, but you know, maybe we need to see what is it, how we are doing. It's not about getting a fine. And he said, well, I don't understand what. So, okay, so someone gave him a book that was The Ecology of Commerce by Paul Hawken, who is an ecologist. And he told to me in the interview, and that was so amazing, we were sitting in his office, and he recalled that moment, and he said, you know, Isabel, I would read this book at night, and I would hug my wife, and we would cry together, because the impact, what we were doing to this planet, and we were captains of the industry, and it was talking about the role of industry. And it was a very emotional moment still for him, so many years later, but no one even asked him those questions, because normally the interviews about what did you do, what do you do, it's not how you feel, what was happening to you. And that was so important that I started to find it in the different individuals that I interviewed, how they were stuck. A woman said, we all have a hole in the heart. Or another said, I suddenly felt, what was I doing here? I start to question my whole role in the corporation. Like there were different approaches that people got very emotional. It was information, but it touched their heart in some way. So it was not just about intellectual information. In terms of what competencies, when it comes to develop that, really, it was not different from any change agent, so I'm not going to go into that, because any change agent needs to do these things. But what was really different was in the mindset. I called it the mindset for lack of a better term. But what I found is, I think you talked about interconnectedness today, no? Interdependence, yeah. System thinking, these different ways of system thinking, that how we can think long-term thinking of our impact, of our decisions, how we are all connected, both and, living with the paradox, not the yes or no, not the dualistic, but living with uncertainty, embracing ambiguity, and saying yes, it is both and, very difficult. Inclusiveness, oneness with nature. Also innovation and creativity, well, that is sort of to be expected, because we have to invent things that don't exist the way or operate differently. But the last one, from doing and having to being. And that was another very interesting dimension that I found in this study, how these people went into some kind of self-examination where they started to see their values. What am I doing? Why am I here? What is my role here? How does what I'm doing connect with my deep-held values? What is it that I am going after? So these very deep questions, and they were saying, I wish I would have had during my career someone that would have helped me ask these questions earlier, that I don't have to become 50 and start to think about that. So some spiritual components, for example, the search for purpose, need to make meaning, what is my role, desire to make a difference. Although the term spiritual is very, not everybody likes it. No? Some people say, no, I'm not spiritual, they will say. I just have my values and I know what has to be done and I believe there is a higher order. Okay, well, so I had to work around a concept, a word that is loaded with meanings for different people. No, so no, I'm not religious. But basically, these were the things that were coming up. No, so socially sensitivity, and this goes a little bit to what you were saying, both Lawrence and Andre, in terms that when we feel something happens. We get we start to develop this sensitivity. So that's the end of my presentation. What happened after that? I was presenting this in a conference a few years ago, and one person from the audience said, "That is fascinating. So, do you have a course that you could come and teach?" And I said, "Okay, dream come true." But I didn't have anything, so I said, "Well, yes, I will have it." And I started to develop a course that I called a program to develop the sustainability mindset. So it's in looking at all these different dimensions, how could they be brought into a program? And it has to be a very special program. So I wanted to do it in a business school, but the woman that approached me, she is the director of a master's program in tourism and hospitality. So I said, okay, we can start. Why not? It doesn't matter in what area. So that's what I started, and I did it 2 years, and then now I'm running it for the first time in a business school in New York. I'm very excited with that. And when I just went into the first day into that building, and in the elevator, you could see the tension. These are all students that work in Wall Street. And it's a very different environment. You can feel the electricity, and time is money. I said, okay, I'm coming here to talk about this. And so first we announced the course, and no one signed up, 2 people. So we couldn't do it. So I said, let's try again. Maybe I should do a session, talk about this, and see if I can sell it. So I was invited to one of the regular classes. And I said, well, I need to calm down, and I cannot go into their pace, because if I want to convey something, I cannot be on the treadmill as they are. I have to stay in my own pace. So I took a deep breath, and we did a very interesting exercise. I didn't have much time. I had like 1 hour. I brought a newspaper, and I gave everybody 1 page. And I said, okay, take a moment and make a circle on something that you find on that page that is unsustainable. Whether it could be an advertisement, or it could be a news, anything. So they started. And then they were laughing. Oh, the whole newspaper, it's not possible, everything. And they say, what did you find? And I say, look, yes, there'd be gold rings. Oh, yes, gold mining, it's terrible, it's contamination. And the other say, here, buying cars for it. And here's the Thanksgiving sale and shopping. So, and then the news, they were looking at the newspaper, and they were in shock. They were laughing. At the same time, they had a lot of tension, because suddenly they were holding something and they never noticed in what world they were living. So then I shared a little bit of the findings, and it was interesting because, it was 7, 8 o'clock, so they work, and they come in and sit, and they go. And then suddenly when I start to tell these stories, I could see, popping up the heads. No, suddenly something was, oh, this is different. What is this about? No? Oh, this is unusual. And suddenly everybody was interested. So we started the course, and we have 21 students, and it's an amazing experience. Now, 5:15. I would like, maybe I make a pause and we take a few questions, and then what I would like is introduce a process that is called the peer group coaching. I put some post-its in there, and I will share with you a question that I have. And then I will ask you to write down more questions, and I have the instructions. And then I collect those, because your question will help me continue thinking this. Is it okay that I pause? I want to make...
Yeah.
Okay.